And welcome back to Meeting of the Minds. Today I'm here with the great Valorie Kondos. Thank you very much for joining us.
I am so excited to join you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we'll jump right into it. Talk about some of the biggest mental struggles you see athletes face. What are some of the things you do to help overcome them?
Oh gosh, seriously,
Big question.
It is a big question, and it is every athlete. I think every human being. It's the battlefield of your mind. It literally is that negative voice that is just gnawing at you, and it loves to attack, especially when you have kind of hit that refresh button and you have made a renewed commitment. You can be certain that you're going to be challenged with whatever commitment you've just made within the next 24 hours. And so it really is the battle of your mind and winning that mental game, as I think everybody knows in sports, is what separates the good from the great.
Right. I mean, pretty much everyone will say gymnastics is 90% mental. And then when you ask them about their training, they say 90% physical. And it's not that the physical isn't important. It's very important. In fact, they probably have to do more physical training, but just make sure you're also working smart with the mindset too.
Exactly. And you say it's interesting how you phrase that, because I think athletes will say that it is X amount percent physical and X amount percent mental, but the truth is they're combined. And when you work on your mental game through the minutia of the physical stuff, that is when the magic happens.
Right. It's the mind-body connection. And there's a reciprocal interaction. It's hard you don't really know exactly where one begins and the other one ends. They have an impact on one another. So what are some of the biggest, the transitional mistakes, or not mistakes, but just issues that you see coming up from the high school level, the club level, up to college?
I so thoroughly enjoyed the work I did at UCLA because I resonated really well. I enjoyed working with that age group, 18 to 22-year-olds. And it really is when they're starting to take control of their lives. And especially the last decade or so, if you asked any one of my athletes, what's the number one thing that you learned at UCLA from Miss Val, hopefully they would tell you that life is about choice, and the choices that you make are going to dictate the life you live. And every single choice starts with your thoughts. And unless you have a mental disability, you are in control 100% of your thoughts. And it was so much fun every year to discuss this with them. I would normally discuss it with them when they were recruits, but especially like that first meeting we have every year in September. Let's talk about this. If there's only one thing you get out of this program, this is going to be it. And the freshmen, oh my gosh, it was like they just don't want to give up the fact that their mind works independently. And it's like they'll say, I lost my confidence. It's like, well, where did it go? I had a few freshmen over the years come up, not sophomores, juniors, seniors, freshmen come up to me and say, you know what, Miss Val, you know that life is about choice thing and it all starts in your mind? Well, I really can't help it when my mind goes to Mean Girl. And you can imagine the heyday I would have with that one, right? You really can't help it when your mind goes to Mean Girl. And so the cool part about that whole philosophy and being a coach, a leader, a mentor for them was when they did get it, as soon as you take responsibility for your thoughts, you can no longer be a victim in life. And that is really when I saw them, literally their lives blossom and literally blossom in living color, and then becoming just like it was this compound effect of every little choice they made in life was helping them have this much richer experience than before when they were playing into the victim mentality.
Right. That makes a lot of sense and very much in line with everything we talk about. We want to use gymnastics as a vehicle to build virtue, to build character, better people. So, our confidence is confidence. Our identity is our identity, whether we're competing in a championship, job interview, taking a big test, in relationships, saying no to drugs and peer pressure. Are you focusing on the right things? Do you have that character? And I'm sure you see that the as you said, that how it translates to all different areas of life. They just explode as people, which is great.
Well, absolutely. And it's, that gets back to another big aha moment that I had in my career was I was never a gymnast. Was not an athlete. I was a ballet dancer. And so when I was asked to be the head coach at UCLA, I was floundering. And part of my reason for floundering was I just didn't buy into this win at all cost mentality. It's like, there has to be more to athletics than just winning. And what you just alluded to became my why, my North Star. And that is that all sport is a masterclass in teaching you the really tough lessons that you don't learn in the classroom. And when people would ask me, what I do for a living, I'd say, you know what? I develop superheroes. I develop superheroes who are going to go out and make the world a better place through the sport of gymnastics.
Right, absolutely. And then that sport's at its best. It's funny that a lot of times maybe inexperienced coaches, they come out of their competing career and they want to focus so much on, the X's and O's and different things to win. And of course, we all want to do that. And then when you see coaches like yourself, other coaches out there who are at that highest level, they understand it's that holistic approach. It's working on the total athlete on the field, on the court, in the gym, and out. Same thing. And then it seems, and then they have the highest level of success. And also, I would think mentally too, because they're looking at the big picture, they're not making an identity meaning based on any one specific performance. Do you find that too?
Absolutely. And, there is a conundrum there because as a coach, you're hired to win. You're not hired to be liked, to be their mentor, to be their psychologist. You're hired to win. And I feel like, as you said so many times, new young coaches, like you want to establish yourself in this amazing pantheon of coaches, and you start coaching from your ego. Because if you're only focusing on winning, it is the X's and O's that are going to grant you that title, that ring, that trophy, that medal. And sadly, as we get older, I wish I would have learned this earlier in my career, but it is the comprehensive coaching of the whole person that is the athlete. And you know what? You get a far better result than when you only focus on the X's and O's.
Absolutely. And so of course we have a full systematic program that works for the whole team, but we know that each athlete's an individual. It's not a cookie cutter thing where you could apply the same approach to each athlete. Talk about that a little bit and what the different, maybe optimal competitive mindsets are for different personalities.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. It comes down to relationships and knowing your athletes. They don't have to like you. You don't have to like them. But your goal is to help them become the best version of themselves they can be. And there is a huge difference in how you go about doing that. And one model is to dictate. And I think that has been the old school coaching model. Do as I say. Don't ask questions. Don't question me. You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out later. Just do what I told you to do. Versus motivating. And the problem with coaches not wanting to motivate is that it takes time. It takes time to motivate someone to want to do things differently. And you have to explain, and you have to build their trust, which takes time. However, I'm old enough, I think you're old enough, hopefully your audience is old enough, that you realize that when you make changes in your life that come from a place of motivation, the results are life-changing, life-altering, and lasting, versus when you only do things because you're told to do it, you're dictated to do it, it's not lasting. It's not life-changing. And I'm gonna share with you a real great example of this. I stopped dancing professionally when I was 22 years old. I moved to LA to be their dance coach for the gymnastics team. And literally for 30 years, I did nothing physically consistently. I did a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but nothing really. I was not motivated to want to work out. And so I just wasn't very healthy. And it took me getting breast cancer. And it took my doctor saying, I don't care what you do, exercise-wise, you find something, you commit to it, and you do it because it's going to help you get through this year of chemotherapy and surgeries. Well, bam, I had my motivation. And it took that long for me. I went and found Pilates. I did it without question every day. I didn't ask myself if I wanted to. I was motivated to want to do it because guess what? I'm kicking cancer's ass and I'm not letting chemo get me down. And that was my motivation to want to work out versus the previous 30 years when I just told myself, you'll look a lot better in those jeans if you go work out. You know, no, I don't care about that.
Right. Like you said, so when you have a big enough reason why, you'll find a way how. And it's got to go deeper. Of course, like over here on the East Coast, it's the same thing. Everyone wants to be jacked and tan and look good, right? So, okay, that's a good thing. That's a healthy sentiment, but that can't be the main driver. The purpose has to be much greater than that. And that would be for building a family, building a business, your academic career, sports. Talk about that purpose and how you see some of the top athletes, they have that, and that purpose gives them perspective.
And, you know, I have a lot of respect for athletes that are coming out now. And I believe the movement started with LeBron. And I am more than an athlete. Athletes want to be recognized, appreciated, valued for the whole person that they are and not just this portion that is an athlete. And I noticed, gosh, so clearly with the student athletes that I worked with, the ones that I developed a relationship with, and like I said, it's not like they liked me or I liked them, but it was important for them and for me to have communication and dialogue, honest, truthful dialogue. Those athletes that I developed that relationship with, they're the ones that really blossomed in college because they trusted that my intention was to help fortify them as a whole person, including all of their hobbies that they liked and all of that. I respected them. I remember one year, my entire team came to me and said, Miss Val, can we switch not Thursday workout and come in like another day on the weekend or something like that? I was like, oh, now all of a sudden they're dictating when workout's going to be. I was like, seriously? And they go, yeah, because we all got student tickets to go see Phantom of the Opera in Hollywood, and it's Thursday night, and we would like to go. And I thought, this is really super cool that they want to readjust their workout time to go do something else that fortifies a different part of them. Heck yeah, go do that. And we didn't even reschedule that workout because I just felt that was so important for them. They came in the next day just powered and ready to go.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times coaches are afraid of like not loosening the reins, but having that kind of flexibility, or like you said, now you have to make up that workout, looking at the big picture. Sometimes it's forced with coaches where I want you to do it like this. And then they'll say, make sure you hang out outside of sports too. And it's not as authentic. It's not as organic as when it's coming from the team.
Yeah. One of the greatest examples of that with me was Caitlin Ohashi. I'm sure you and your viewers know her, the phenom that went viral. But she came in as a freshman and she was just defiant. And she literally looked at me in the eye and said, Miss Val, I just want you to know everything you tell me to do, I do the exact opposite. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this is going to be fun. But it wasn't until I challenged her to, like I keep using the word fortify, to fortify her entire human being. And I said to her, I said, what do you do outside the gym? She goes, I don't know. I said, well, how much time do you spend on your phone? She goes, I don't know. Well, what do you do? I scroll. I'm like, well, why don't you use it for good? And so I introduced her to TED Talks. She didn't know what a TED Talk was. She came in and her whole world was opened up. She said, Miss Val, come here. I learned about what bullying does to a person. I learned about body shaming. I learned about how to help the homeless. And her whole world opened up. And addressing those things that made her heart sing made her gymnastics better.
Right. That makes sense because it is, again, it's developing the whole person. I remember when I first found TED Talks, there was TED Talks and Pop Tech, two things like that. It was a similar kind of thing, but you could just learn so much information about all these different topics. You don't have to be a full-time student in that one subject, but that's great. And also, so there's two benefits there. Well, there's probably a lot of benefits, but it's keeping your mind in a positive direction. And it's also keeping you away from negatives, because when we're just scrolling, which almost all of us are guilty of, myself included, sometimes you just go down rabbit holes, and even at best, you're just wasting time. At worst, you're looking at things you shouldn't be looking at. So it's just keeping your head in the right space positively.
You know, I'm sad to say this, but when I speak to younger adults, high school and college age student athletes normally, but I'll tell them, I'll say, you know, the studies show that boys are on their phones an average of 6 hours a day and girls are on their phones an average of 8 hours a day. How many of you feel that's true? Every hand goes up. And I said, how many of you are scrolling simply to numb out because you're so stressed out? Every hand goes up. And I don't know, did you find me because of my TED Talk? I don't know how that happened, but my TED Talk addresses this. My TED Talk begs the question, is all winning success? Because we're at a time in our lives now where if you answer yes to that, that you're wrong. And we are at a time where our youth in particular are reporting more stress, anxiety, depression, suicide than ever before. And that's on us adults. It's not on the kids, it's on us. And I feel like as coaches, we need to be able to understand that. And we need to be educating ourselves on how this generation sees life and how they learn. We got to go out, go buy the books, whatever book you want on Generation Z. They're the generation that has never not had a smartphone. And there's some wonderful things in there from this generation. You know, yes, they're more isolated. Yes, they spend way too much time scrolling and all that. But you know what? They're far more adept at analyzing situations and being able to shift. Like the video game guys and girls, they're able to make decisions and to shift. Like when plan A doesn't go right, they can shift to plan B because they've been studying this their whole lives.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's right. Just keeping up to date with everything. And if you're not growing, you're dying. It's kind of like the same thing we were saying before with TED Talks. Just if you're not, you got to constantly keep moving forward and learning and seeing what's out there. And, you know, the mental health numbers, that's a big deal to me. I was a school psychologist before I started this business with Gymnast Mindset. And that's now with COVID, the numbers for suicidal ideation among 18 through 25, this college age, it was up to as high as 25% seriously contemplating suicide back in June, CDC. The virtual learning went up from like 8% to 40% failure. Crazy. And adults struggling with mental health, I think that was 40% also struggling with either some kind of mental, emotional disorder or substance abuse. And if the adults are suffering, that trickles down to the kids. So what do you do now during this COVID time to even take it to the next level to make sure that they're all right?
You know, I just had a lovely conversation last night with our sports psychologist at UCLA that I've known and worked with for 35 years. And he said something just very simple, but very prophetic. And that is that life doesn't happen to us. Life happens for us. And if you can shift your mindset as to, again, being a victim and, oh, poor me, look what's happened to me. I have to stay home. I have to do all this stuff, to, okay, what am I actually gaining from this time that I didn't have before? Time with my family, time with my children, alone time with myself, whatever that may be. And how am I going to grow through this time versus just go through this time? And if you can really just like coach yourself up to, you know, the self-exam, unexamined life is not worth living, Socrates said. So if you can spend some time, examine your life and say, okay, when we're done with quarantine, I want to be a far better version of myself than what I am right now. What does that look like? And what you just said earlier, how do I go about doing that? And it's hard because it's hard to motivate yourself when there's no external forces encouraging you along the way. But I got to share, I wake up every morning sad and like a dark cloud. It feels like Groundhog Day. When are we going to get out of this? Yay, it's 2021. Well, nothing's changed. Yay, we have a vaccine. Well, not seeing the effects of that yet. So, and then I just coach myself up and I go, okay, stop, take a deep breath. Give me 3 things, Valerie, that you're grateful for. Okay, I have to quarantine. Well, guess what? I have a house that I get to quarantine in. Okay, my husband is a wonderful human being. I don't have to worry about being abused. I have everything I need here to be healthy and happy. As much food as I want, warmth, a heating blanket, I got it. And we all know now the research with gratitude and how it changes your brain to feel happy, and the endorphins kick in, and it's all awesome. And when you live in a constant state of gratitude, there is no space in your brain for pity party. And then I just go about my day and I say, okay, how am I going to get 1% better today? What does 1% better look like today? And full disclosure, I mentioned my lovely husband. He's from the South and he talks really slowly. It drives me crazy. And I know I'm talking to a New Yorker, so you know what I'm talking about. And I have to say, pat myself on the back, these last 10 months, I have gotten more patient with not just like inside going like this, okay, talk faster, son, shut up so that I can say something, but really silencing my mind and listening to what he's saying. So I've gotten about a strong B in that category.
That's phenomenal. And doing a lot of these interviews, especially interviewing a lot of these uber successful coaches and athletes and business people, that's something I see they do have in common. They're not lazy thinkers. When adversity hits, it's a discipline. Like a lot of people look at mindset or motivation as more like kumbaya, hold hands in a circle and rainbows and sunshine and butterflies, which is great. That's cool too. But it's a discipline. It's developing that mentality. We're clearly reading a lot of the same books, by the way, because that 1% better, all these little points you're making, those are lessons in and of themselves. But it's a discipline. You force yourself when you catch yourself complaining, criticizing, blaming, pointing the finger. What are 3 positives? What are 3 things I'm thankful for? Because that opposite of depression and sadness is not happiness. That was interesting learning that. The opposite is gratitude and thankfulness.
Yeah, I love that. And I honestly feel like we can't say that enough. We can't reaffirm that enough with each other. This same sports psychologist, he's quick to say he didn't make all this stuff up. But another thing that I have worked on during this quarantine that I'm very proud of myself about is in order to truly listen, you have to silence your mind. You can't be thinking, oh, I want that person to stop talking so I can say the next thing. You can't be figuring out the next glib anecdote that you're going to come up with. You really have to silence your mind. And when you spell out the word listen and you rearrange those letters, it spells silent. Isn't that cool?
It is. That's phenomenal. I didn't know that one.
I know. I should have my little cards up when I use that one, but I know. And it's a skill. It is truly, I'm like, no wonder these monks and these Buddhists and all these prayer people live such long, healthy lives, because it truly is a skill to quiet your mind and to just listen to yourself and then the universe that's speaking to you.
And now we're in like the time of the buffered self, where it's constant stimulation. I mean, bad enough when we were younger. Now it's crazy. So you do have to feel for the young people these days that it's just constant information. And you said it perfectly about how they'll scroll just to get their minds off of whatever's going on, de-stressing. And that's a little bit of a dangerous thing there.
I think it's a big dangerous thing. I do. I watched Social Dilemma a few times. I did a webinar with our communications professor at UCLA on it. And it's scary to me. It's very scary. Like all of the things that parents don't know their children are looking at. And, while there's a lot of good things that happen on social, I just feel like, I feel like we gave them the smartphone, but we didn't give any parameters of mental health and how to use this. It's like I used to tell my student athletes, okay, before you start scrolling, just step back a second, calm your mind, and don't get caught up in comparison and comparing yourself to all these beautiful pictures that you're going to see. And purposely be super intentional on the posts that you do stop and look at. And make sure they're fueling you with encouraging, motivating, inspirational things.
Right. Man, there's so many good points about that, that having that clear mind where you're in the moment, that mindfulness where it's intentional. I'm doing this for a reason. And I guess before that, preceding that would be your purpose. And as you said before about knowing the difference between success and winning, because you could have, and we see all these massively successful singers, athletes, business people, they have all these followers on social media, great cars, all the trappings of success, but they might be depressed, hooked on drugs, or, we don't take any of that stuff lightly. And they're miserable. They're miserable. If you're highly successful, but you don't have that balance and you don't like yourself, what good is it?
Yeah. I think it's super important for people once they get to a certain age to have a little quiet time and really define what success looks like for you, not for your society, not for your family. Gosh, I mean, that comes up a lot. Well, my parents want me to be a doctor. Well, my parents want, no, what does it look like for you? And all the people that I know that have taken the time to do that, it's a really simple equation they come up with. Like, Coach Wooden, success is peace of mind and knowing you've done your best. That's it.
Great John Wooden.
Yeah. Susan Scott, who wrote Fierce Conversations, she says, success is making sure that my actions are in alignment with my North Star. That's not how she put it, but that was how I interpreted it. And I think that if we all would take that time to really, really think about success. Okay, so another book I read, The Success Principles, Jack Canfield. In it, there's this great, great, great exercise I'm going to share with you guys. So when we get off this podcast, go write down 30 things that you want out of life. And what you're going to find, the reason why you need to write 30 things is because the first 10 or 15 are going to be monetary. I want a house and I want a car, blah, blah, blah. And it's all stuff that you can buy. And once you exhaust all that stuff, that's when it really gets interesting. And when you start deeping, I want to live a healthy, long life. I want to have a better relationship with my spouse. Then, okay, get done with that. Then write down 20 things that you love in life. And I've done this with our teams before, but one of the biggest aha moments was a girlfriend of mine worked in politics for 20 years. And she did this exercise when I did it with our team. I looked at her, she had tears coming down her face. I'm like, what's going on? She goes, there's not one thing I wrote in the 30 things I liked and the 20 things that I love that has anything to do with politics. I was like, so what are you going to do? She said, I think I'm going to quit my job. And she did. And she's been immensely happier than the last 20 years of her life.
That's great. And I love that. I got to send you our curriculum that we have, because you'd love this. We're very big on making long lists, not just one or two, but actually be a lawyer who's building a case for yourself. You need a lot of evidence. So lay it all out there, scrape the bottom of the barrel, do some soul searching, do some digging. That's tremendous.
Tell me why in your education did you find that it's important to make long lists?
Because you see, well, you're grateful for more. First, it's going to help you being more grateful because you're thinking of it. You're thinking of a lot more. You're also going to be more confident. If you're thinking about your successes, your personal strengths, most people are focusing too much on what they wish they had or what they want to have. And they don't think about being grateful for what they actually do have. So I just feel like I just look at it as a lawyer building a case for yourself. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, you want to have those long lists. And it gets you to think. Most people don't take time to think. Henry Ford said, thinking's the most difficult work in the world. And that's why so few people do it. And you look around and you say, he's right. Not a lot of people thinking.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I love that exercise. I learned so much about myself in doing that exercise.
That's awesome. Great stuff. We could talk about this stuff all day. I see we're reading the same books with the same kind of mindset. Thank you very much, Coach, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for reaching out. And yes, send me your curriculum. I'm excited to see it.
Absolutely. So there you heard it from one of the best ever right there. Don't have that victim mentality, and it's your choice. You have the ownership. You get to choose. Are you going to be the victim or the victor? The whiner or the winner? The worrier or the warrior? And the only difference between champ and chump is you.
Love that.
Great stuff. Great stuff, Coach. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
All righty. Happy New Year to you.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.